This is the second video for solving absolute value equations. So on this one, we're just going to solve a few of these and we'll be finished with the lesson. So notice that the absolute value portion of this equation is not isolated, so we want to add 9 to both sides. And then we can set up our two equations. Now remember, as you're working through the videos, you should be pausing and working these out ahead of time and checking your answers with me once you understand the concept enough to do that, so that you're getting some good practice as we go. Okay, so I'm going to write this out here. 3 plus 6x equals negative 11, or 3 plus 6x equals positive 11. All right, and then we'll solve each one. I'm going to subtract the 3. And that's going to equal 8. And then we divide both of these by 6. Oh, I was looking at the wrong equation here. I was like, what is going on? This doesn't look right. And divide by 6. Okay, so when we simplify, we get x equals negative 7/3 because we divide, right? We divide 14 and 6 each by 2. And then we also will simplify on the next one. And that is, we're dividing by 6, and that fraction is going to also be divisible by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. And those are my two solutions. Okay, and so that's it for that equation. And then next, just a minute. So sometimes I have some weird things happen where, you saw that was a blank page and I have to save this and get out of it and get back into it, and then the page is there. This one is not the main emphasis in this section, but I do want you to see what happens when there's absolute values on both sides, right? And so we have to set this up accordingly. And we're really just doing the same thing. One of these equations will be set up with just the negative 4, and then one will be the opposite of that, right? So when we set this up, we say 3x plus 5 equals the opposite of what's inside the absolute value, or 3x plus 5 is equal to just what's inside that absolute value of negative 4. And so we set it up two ways each time. Notice this time we're going to end up with the positive, right? So we're going to have 3x plus 5 equals a positive 4, and then the other one was already negative. So solve. I'm going to subtract 5. Bring down the 3x equals negative 1. Divide by 3. So one of my solutions will be negative 1/3. Solve the other equation. Right, subtract 5 on both sides. We then divide by 3 on both sides. And we find that x equals negative 3. And then we are finished with that. You can always go back and check it to be sure. All right, next. This one looks a little more complicated. It's really not, as long as we just follow the process that you've been learning, right? So we have this, 4n plus 5 equals the negative of the opposite of this, right? Or 4n plus 5 equals the positive of 4n plus 3. Okay, and then we're going to solve. So on the first one, I'm going to have 4n plus 5 equals negative 4n minus 3. I distribute that negative. It's like distributing a negative 1, and then solve, right? So add 4n, and that gives me 8n plus 5 equals -3. And then we will subtract 5. Getting low on space here. 8n equals -8. Divide by 8. And we find that n equals -1. Okay? Now on the second equation, if I start out by trying to combine my variables to get them together on one side, look what happens. And I get this, 5 equals 3, which is not possible. So for this portion of the equation, we don't get a second solution. So just n equals -1. That's the only solution for this particular equation. And then that's it. And actually that's it for this video. We're finished with the lesson, and I'll see you on the next video.